episode 105 of Tom's Hardware, the podcast for November the 1st, 2022. This year's flying by. It's going by too quickly. November already.
I know.
Madness.
Halloween's coming past.
Yeah.
But we're not done with it yet, are we?
Not yet. No, we're extending it for 1 day extra this year. I'm your host, Les Pounder, Associate Editor. With me, as always, is Raspberry Pi expert Ash Hill. And our special guest tonight is Dr. David Pride. Emphasis on Doctor. And he takes his candy protection very seriously. So he employs a Raspberry Pi and compressed air to scare away would-be ghouls. So, David, can you tell us a bit about yourself before you start telling us about how you scare away ghouls and spectres?
Oh, it depends. Yes, of course. Greetings. Hi, I'm David. I am a recent doctor, not of the medical variety, so I can't look at Les's feet, thankfully, as he asked me to earlier. I am indeed an academic doctor. I'm currently a research associate at the Knowledge Media Institute, which is part of the Open University based in Milton Keynes. The team I work for is called CORE, and we run the largest aggregation of open access scientific literature anywhere in the world. We're currently used by about 30 million people a month who use us. If you try and explain academic publishing to anyone outside academia, it's completely bonkers. But for those who don't know what open access is, it's the free ability to freely, legally read openly published scientific literature that's not locked up behind paywalls. I completed my PhD in 2020, and I was finally awarded my PhD earlier this year, as Les assumed. So I am a very recent postdoc, and I'm still getting used to being Dr. David Pride, which is very strange to say the least.
Well, congratulations, Doctor. That's an awesome accomplishment.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations, sir.
It has been a long 5 years, to say the least. 5.5 years, actually, now.
I bet it has. Oh, excuse me, got something in my eye. Well, David, you're here tonight and today for our American viewers to talk about your candy protection system, which is rather novel. Can you tell us a bit about it? And have you got a demo that you can show us as well?
The perils of the live demo. It is sitting on the desk behind me, as you can probably see. Just underneath here is a PIR sensor, which means as soon as I turn it on, it's going to know that I'm here, and it's probably going to squirt me. The only thing, after the number of visitors we had last night, it's probably out of gas. Now, I have to say this is completely safe. No nerds or small zombies were harmed in the making of this monstrosity. So if you bear with me just 1 second, let's try and just turn it on. I've got another. There's a Raspberry Pi inside this. We can take the hood off and have a look inside. There's a Raspberry Pi and a stepper motor which drives a gas can. I'm currently VNCing into this from remote. So let's just boot it up and turn it on. And it's immediately going to know that I'm here, I suspect, unless I sit really quietly. And that should be now live, but if I move... There's your result. As I thought, yeah, it's pretty much out of gas. I can now be safe because I set it so there's a 2-minute safety margin on it. So once the little monsters actually made it safely to the front door, it didn't keep going off.
Over and over again. Yeah.
While they were standing there over and over again. So let's just destroy the safety thing. If I sit really, you see there it comes up with the boot up. And there you go. It knows that I'm sitting here straight away. So we'll shut that off so I can actually talk to you guys. There we go. So yeah, this is the spooky sweetie stopper. I do like Halloween. My wife is not British. She's Kiwi via the US and spent a lot of time growing up in the US. So Halloween is something that we've always really, really kind of been into. I mean, I probably built my first Halloween pie project 7 or 8 years ago, which was a spooky pumpkin. There's a video out there on YouTube somewhere. It was featured on the Pie blog, and it's the same sort of thing. It's just a very simple motion detector that just picks up when someone's got close, and that just got screamed. The guy on the left or right, I'm not sure which way around, whether I mirror or not. This guy here is fantastic. This I picked up in a junk sale after Halloween a couple of years ago for about £4, I think it was. So
best time to get stuff.
Absolutely. The week after Christmas, the week after Halloween, anything like that. And I wanted to turn him into kind of what this is. And I went through a few iterations of, you can get the little hippie-ish water fountains that make the little steamy, smoky stuff. I tried one of those, and it kind of came out as a is that on fire rather than the smoke breathing ghoul I was wanting to build. It wasn't really that effective, if I'm honest. So, and yeah, it wasn't that impressive. So, and I was looking, and I was genuinely thinking about Halloween a month or so ago, and I was cleaning the computer keyboard on a computer that I had to give back to the OU because I've now got a new one. I thought, as it is, I looked at the keyboard, it was a little bit grotty. So, and I found one of these. That was not planned, by the way. This is, oh, it's even got stuff in. This is an air duster, which is so it's just simply, if you're not compressed air, but if you turn it upside down and do that, with that, you get a lovely blast like that. Effectively in here, this has just got a laser cut frame inside it, and there's one of those cans installed upside down, and on top of it is a stepper motor with a slightly offset cam, so when it rotates, pushes the can down, squirt, and away you go. And there's a nice big Bluetooth speaker buried in the back of it, so you can get a nice loud scream out of it. I'm always convinced when you do something like this, I'm always convinced I'm going to end up with little zombies in tears and being beaten up by the parents. But
so far, so good.
The parents just tend to be the ones who really get it. It's brilliant to see. I mean, I had several sets of parents literally doubled over at the bottom of my drive last night in absolute hysterics. Well, their small zombies and ghouls wonder what on earth just went on. I'm not completely mean. There's a video out there on YouTube. I'm not completely mean. We do actually have, can I reach this? Yes, it's fine. We have this, which is lovely. I found this. This is part of a lot of my making. I found this at a car boot sale a couple of years ago. Ooh. And we turned it into a treasure chest. Now, fortunately, this isn't plugged in, because if it was, it may lead to your podcast getting banned. Or at least getting a copyright strike, because when I open this, when it's plugged in, we have in here, I'm not sure whether you can be able to see, there we go. You have lots of lovely candy and candles and stuff. But if it's plugged in when you open, it all lights up and it actually plays the Harry Potter theme tune. So
nice.
It's a difficult one to show on YouTube because every time you put the video up, it'll get a copyright strike on it. So that's just say we're not completely mean. When they do make it past the front door and they have survived, we do give them something to send them on their way. So
that's so cute.
There we go. So that's kind of what we were doing last night. We were in London and we legged it back to make sure we got back in time. Unfortunately, it then absolutely hammered down with rain for the next hour or so, which kind of put a bit of a damp squib. But we still had quite a few visitors, which is lovely. As I say, I moved to Milton Keynes about 6 years ago when I started the PhD, and I think our house has slowly developed a reputation, shall we say, in the neighborhood for being somewhere to go if you're brave, but somewhere where there's going to be sweeties at the end of it.
Oh, how fun. So what model of pie are you using for your, what'd you call it, your spooky?
What was it? The
spooky treat stopper, or no?
Spooky protection system. Right?
There we go. Yeah, that's a Pi 3 in there, which is genuinely. I've got 2 Pi 4s. They're both in use at the moment. But it's one of the things of having been making stuff for a fairly extended period of time now. It is built from stuff that I had lying around. The only thing that I bought actually was the actual mask that went on the front, which again, I think was £4 from Wilko or somewhere like that. So there was nothing that didn't come out of a drawer, effectively. And that's kind of one of the things I like with building. I was one of the founder members of Cheltenham Hackspace, and one of the things, there's an absolutely enormous, there used to be an enormous car boot sale at Cheltenham Racecourse, and I had quite a reputation for going to the racecourse and either finding broken technology or broken computer equipment or broken or slightly old toys and giving these things a new lease of life with a Raspberry Pi, basically.
Yeah, toy hacking's really cool.
Yeah, it's one of my, it's in fact, it's probably, I don't think it was the first project I did. I think the first project I did was probably the same as everybody else. It was a media player or something like that. But the first physical project I did was actually something I called WISE, which was a wireless interactive sapien experiment, which is a terrible name for not seeing them. I actually hacked one of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a Robo Sapien. Again, I found this at the car boot sale in Cheltenham, and I asked the chap who was selling it how much he wanted it for it, and he said £8. I thought he said 80 at the start, and I probably would have bought it even at that. But for those who don't know, this is actually called a Robo Sapien. Was invented by a guy called Mark Tilden, who was working at Los Alamos at the time, and he came up with an absolutely fascinating thing. It's called Beam Robotics, which is I'm going to get this right now. Biology, electronics, aesthetics, and mechanics. And this actually uses just 2 motors to perform an incredibly effective walking motion. But it was pretty dumb apart from that. So I ripped the rest of its brain out and I replaced it with a Raspberry Pi. And I used the Google Speech API and I used the Wolfram Alpha API.
Mm-hmm.
And this was probably in end of 2012. So yeah, just after the birth of the Pi, really.
Wow.
And it essentially you could ask it questions. You say, how long is the Great Wall of China? And it would use the 2 APIs connected together. It was fairly slow, but this is kind of almost pre the smartphone era. So many people hadn't seen it do something. And you could also tell it to pick stuff up and walk over there and things like that. And it actually got featured by the Royal Institution they did for one of their Christmas lectures one year. They did something called the Hack Gallery. And it was one of the projects selected to be featured in their Hack Gallery.
Oh, wow.
That was probably the first, real physical Pi project that I'd done at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've been in the Pi community since sort of the start, haven't you, really? And it's lovely to have you, sir.
Thank you. It's very nice. I think, and I always admit, I genuinely think I missed a trick with the Pi the first time round because I saw the original Rory Kethlen-Jones interview. I knew it was coming. I was there on the 29th of February, which is a real pain in the bum, actually, because that's also my wedding anniversary.
Oh,
that has come up repeatedly over the last few years of me going to the Pi party on the 29th of February, whenever it's been. It's just happened to clash with my wedding anniversary. So I was in the queue for the first ones. I didn't get one of the first ones, but I got one of the second batch. And to be honest, at that point, I knew I've been a geek all my life, but at that point, I didn't know Linux. I didn't know Python. And in the very, very early days, obviously there wasn't much of an ecosystem around the Pi at that point. And there was a media player called XBMC, which I had a bit of fun with, and then I kind of stopped playing with it. I'll be completely honest, I stopped playing with it because I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I think it was towards the end of 2012, we came from Gloucester. My wife wanted to go to Bletchley Park. So we went to Bletchley Park and the absolutely fantastic National Museum of Computing. And I saw on the wall at the National Museum of Computing a poster for something called a Pi Jam, which I'd never heard of. And I think we were there on the Thursday, and this was on the Saturday. And I turned to my wife and I said, "Look, I don't know why, but I want to come back to that." And she was like, "You're mad! It's 2.5 hours from home." I said, "Yeah, I know, but I want to. Let's go and see what it is." And I remember walking into one of the rooms at TNMOC where it was set up, and I met Mike Horn, who many of you will know through Pi Wars. Peter Onions was there, who's another big Pi name who's been around. And I looked around at some of the projects that these people have built with the Raspberry Pi. And I genuinely went, I think I missed a trick here. And that was sort of my introduction to properly to the Pi and the Pi community. And I've just realized, remembered actually. And as I say, I knew no Python. I knew like sort of Pascal and Lisp and Schoolboy Basic, which is kind of giving my age away. But I got the Pi out of the drawer and I got back and I wrote a software version of an Enigma machine that worked exactly as the Enigma machine was. And the question I often get asked, well, why? And the answer is because.
Yeah, why not?
That's where a lot of my making comes from, is the wanting to understand better. And I find one of the best ways of finding out and working out something is to build it, and it will take it to bits and put it back together again.
Yep.
Yeah, I love how your example project is an Enigma machine. I'll just make an LED light up and I'm happy. You just go, Enigma, let's crack some German codes in World War II.
Yeah, it took me quite a while. I must confess, it did take me quite a while. But no, that was great. The code's still there somewhere as well. But yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that really is fantastic. So I have a question back about your little screaming candy protection unit you've got behind you again.
Yeah.
So I understand that you've got the air duster upside down. You mentioned
Yes.
it's got a stepper motor.
Yes.
Is there any kind of like frame or mounting components that hold it together? Did you have to 3D print anything, or how does that look inside?
Let me turn it off so it doesn't bite me when I move it, and
Good idea.
then you can see. This is terrible. See, look, the Wizard of Oz never shows behind the curtain because we know it's just a little bold bloke and a bunch of levers. Really, well, I'm afraid to say this holds true to that analogy. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, can I pick him up? He's quite heavy now because he's got a fairly beefy Bluetooth speaker on the back of him. So I'm gonna have to do one thing now that may look a bit. There we go. That's okay. This is the wire we hang him up with. So
He is a real doctor. He's taking the brain out.
Yeah.
we'll take the face off first. So, and then if I lift it up, if I take this away, if I hold it so you can actually see it, so we can say the mask. This mask actually just slips off the front here,
There you go.
and there inside we have sort of a foam board outer with, and there's your. It's a laser cut sort of frame for it, and there's the stepper motor on the top, and here's the offset cam.
I see. That's clever.
And that
is very clever.
And in the back, which you won't be able to see because it's a bunch of wires and it's all kind of hidden by the speaker, it's sort of in there is your, I can't even get the camera right there. In there is your ply and your wires and your motor controller. And you'll actually see a steel ruler going up the back of it because part of the problem was that this just flexed so much under the. I don't really think you realize how much strength you have just in one finger, and just actually pressing down on the top of a can takes quite a significant amount of pressure. I thought of a couple of ways of doing it, and I looked at servos originally, but most of them are sort of feebly weak servos that are used in this sort of thing. So they can move about 5 grams, and that's an awful lot more than 5 grams to press it. So I tried a screwdriver, which was great, but it was too slow. Effectively, it would wind down to open it up, but then, of course, by the time you wound it back up again, half the can had gone. So I then changed, and I went for the stepper motor that's driven by a motor controller, and literally it's just a quick on-off, and that's enough to depress the can to give you a nice full blast of compressed air.
Nice.
So are you controlling it with... Oh, go ahead.
All the questions coming in.
So how many tins of compressed air did you go through to test the exact duration necessary? Here we go.
Is
excellent. You've been to the pound shop.
Quite a few the right answer.
Excellent. That is a fail process there. First attempts in learning. You're iterating.
Totally.
Excellent.
So did you program everything in Python, or did you use anything else along with it?
No, it's actually it's quite straightforward. There's literally 2 little routines. I actually started, and this in the classic way. I started with one of the standard ultrasonic sensors that feature in an awful lot of Pi projects, and I've used very successfully in many projects over the years, including at Pi Wars, including with robots. And with this, I tried 2 different sensors. I tried 2 different setups because you'll find different descriptions of how you should set up the voltage divider to make sure that the trigger and the echo of the ultrasonic works properly. And it was great up to about 1 meter, but beyond 1 meter, it's kind of started to get a little bit flaky. And where this was outside, I didn't want it to, you had to right up to there into your face for it to go off, basically. So it was a bit, so I went through the drawers, and this, as I say, I found, I had a bunch left over from other projects, of course. I had a bunch of the little SparkFun PIR boards.
Oh, yeah.
Which are literally 3 wires and about 4 lines of code. So the code inside itself is there's effectively, there's 3 bits tied together. There's sense that something happened, drive the stepper motor, and drive the LEDs and the speaker. And those are just 3 routines in Python that when the sensor is triggered, go off and do this. And as I say, I set a sort of safety window of a couple of minutes. So when people were bent over in the box and helping themselves to stuff, it wasn't going off in their faces constantly.
No,
although that might have been funny.
Yeah. So it's now a good time to tell you, David, that you can get 3-volt tolerant ultrasonic sensors. HC SR04 Plus or P will do 3-volt and 5-volt on trigger and echo.
Thank you. That I did not know. That I
There you
did
go.
not know. And I take it that will obviously improve the reliability of the things then in that case.
Yeah, because you haven't got the voltage divider, you're removing something out of the chain that could cause an issue. It's just boom, there you go. Yeah,
Okay.
I've got a whole box full of different ones. I was testing them about 6 months ago.
Okay.
Loads. Yeah, but great fun. I'm loving your project, mate. It shows that you don't have to have something completely IoT connected to the internet that does flashy lights and everything. Just something simple. It's just a servo. No, it's just one of these. I've always got a prop to hand, and I'm not on camera, which is always a good shot as well, Les. There you go. Servos.
It's a stepper motor, not a servo.
All right, it's similar, but it's not. I've got servos down here.
I made that
Like
mistake last week. I meant to say stepper motor in my little platform, and I said servo. Not the same thing.
Very true, very true. But no, it just shows a lot of simple components that we've got lying around because, as makers, we have got a lot of stuff lying around that we can make stuff with. But we'll always gravitate something new and cool, and that's over there, and it's on a website to download. This is where Ash pulls out something like Galactic Unicorn, I'm guessing,
You're
shows it
talking
up.
about having stuff lying around.
Yeah. That's my dining room in a box.
Believe me, I am not moving this camera from the very, very narrow field of view that you have at the moment. This was very carefully constructed to avoid the chaos that's just there and just there. Oh, it's just there as well, actually.
I bet it's cool, though. I bet there's a lot of cool stuff there.
There is.
Yeah.
So, Les, you want to check this out?
Go on. What have you got, Ash?
Pimoroni has sent me a Galactic Unicorn because they thought that wasn't good enough for the podcast and we could use a matrix to set up and show off. So this isn't set up yet at all. This is still new in the box. So I thought we would do a live unboxing. They sent me a little paper about it. The one that they sent is a not a whoopsie edition. It's a special edition. So a few changes have been made on the final version that has been made available as of this past Friday. So you can go pick this up now. But let me get a close up here of what the case looks like. Look how thin this is. It is so ridiculous how thin this is because every other matrix I've had has been kind of chunky. This is taped up. I'm going to use my seam ripper to get into it.
There you go. The first live unboxing on Tom's Hardware, the podcast.
There we
So
go.
they're taking 105 shows.
It says up here, social, status, sensor, and simulation with, I guess, some examples of what you can have it do. The simulation being fire. You can simulate fire or have it, it uses a Pico W, so you can connect it up to YouTube, shows your subscriber counters, all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty sure that they have a preloaded interface that you can play around with if you are just getting started out. But of course, you can do whatever you want with it. So taking the lid off inside, we've got some nice packaged bubble wrap. Pretty in pink. Ooh, I thought it was thin. It is thin. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's nice.
Very beautiful. It's got a nice unicorn on the
screen is very nice.
It comes with the Pico. We've got a speaker module built into it here.
Oh, the Pico is built in.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. I thought I would have to put my own on there, but it looks like it's got one.
Yeah.
We've got a reset button, some connectors. It looks like a quick connector here, QWST. It says Galactic Unicorn, made in Sheffield, UK by Pimoroni. Very pretty. Comes with a cable here. It just connects to the Pico, obviously, and then to USB. I wonder what happens when I just plug it up. Maybe
see what
something
happens.
That'll be part
If
of
it's like Pimoroni's previous boards, the weather boards, the sensor boards, they come with an onboarding script now that runs a Wi-Fi access point from the Pico. So you connect to the Wi-Fi access point and then run through a script to say what you want to do with it. So connect to Wi-Fi, what services you want to use, and it just goes, here you go. So the sensors one will connect up the sensors to Adafruit's I/O service or MQTT, that sort of thing, and start sending data straight away.
That is pretty cool because if you're new to this sort of thing and you just want to check it out and get off the ground, that's a good place to get started.
Yeah.
Also should add that it's got 4 buttons here off to the side. So you got plenty to play with.
That is nice.
Oh, look, there we
Oh,
go.
hello. Blinkies.
That looks like some lava lamp stuff. That is pretty slick. I just can't get over how thin that is, though. That is just wicked. I'm going to have to 3D print a housing for it of some kind.
Yeah.
Oh,
David's
that's
thinking
cool.
now he has to get that out of his pocket money for this month.
Mm.
You know what this needs? It needs an accelerometer so I can move it around and stuff will slide around.
Well, there you go. You've got a Quest connection on the back, the Quick or Stemma QT connection. You can get an accelerometer, plug it straight in, bit of MicroPython, and away you go.
One like this.
There you go.
That's one of my favorites. I've got another one. There's a project called Pixel Dust that I've got set up on a 64 by 64 LED matrix with the weight sensor in it as well, which is just such a different tactile thing to play with. It's ridiculous.
That is very cool. But Ash, as well as playing with the Pico Unicorn, you've been doing some projects this month, haven't you? It's the start of the month, so we need to talk about the previous month's projects.
Yeah, it's that time of the month again. If you guys are not familiar with what we do here at Tom's Hardware, we're really into the Raspberry Pi. Go figure. And we cover Raspberry Pi projects all week long. And at the end of the month, we like to gather a list of the 10. I don't like saying best, but it's the best Pi projects list. But really, they're all fantastic. And I'm super biased when I say that. I think anyone who takes the time to make something with the Pi and share it with the internet is awesome. But there are 10 that I've picked out that I wanted to touch on a few with you guys. Hold on, I have to plug my mouse in again because I unplugged it for that module. There we go. So let me get my screen switched over here and I'll show you just a few to give you a taste of what we're looking at. You'll have to check out the full list when it goes live later today. So first up, I've got this keypad, and that's not totally special in itself because we've seen plenty of Pico-powered keypads before, but what makes this one unique is that it was made by a dungeon master who wanted something to bring his D&D games to the next level, and this absolutely does that. If you press one of the buttons on this keypad, it will start to play an audio track to add a level of ambience. So it could, maybe you guys are walking into a cave. Well, he's got some spooky cave music just ready to go. Just hit the blue button, hit the red button, and suddenly you hear flames. You're near a volcano. I don't know. He's got all kinds of cool stuff hooked up to this so that he can just set the tone in real time at the press of a button. The next one I wanted to show off was this robotic head. There's a video game called Stray where you play as a cat, and instead of the world being populated by humans, it's populated by these robot droid-like people. I guess you would call them people. They're bipedal. They walk around. They've got really cool heads with screens on them with little animations that play. So what this maker has done is recreated one of those droids, and they put a Pi inside to control a small screen. And the animations that play on the screen were actually taken from the game itself. So not only is it a really cool replica, but it's an accurate replica using data from the game. So you can have one of those droids in your house, maybe with your real cat. And last up, since we're making Halloween last one more day, I wanted to show off this really cool costume. This guy dressed like a nerd, and he carried around a box of nerds, and inside are more nerds. And to get to those, you have to wave your hand in front of an ultrasonic sensor, and it will trigger a magazine loaded up with nerds and launches them out of the bottom where you can retrieve it. You can see the little girl there in this picture. I'll zoom in a little bit. She's getting the candy from the bottom. But I thought that was pretty clever because it's like a Pi project you can take with you, and it just confuses the whole concept of trick-or-treating because you're giving candy to people while you're out and about. But hey, what's a Pi project for but turning everything upside down what you thought you knew? So those are just a few cool projects that I wanted to share with you guys. Again, the full list is going to go up on Tom's Hardware later today. There are 7 more cool things you should check out, and I really like the first one. You're going to have to check it out. It's probably one of the coolest Pi projects that we've ever covered. I should have talked about that one. Can I talk about it too?
You can talk about it by all means.
Oh, all right. I think it was a Tom Scott video. There is a tank simulator.
Is
in
this the tank simulator?
Oh my
Yep.
gosh! Yeah, it's from the
Amazing.
1970s, and they brought it back to life with the Raspberry Pi. And if you want to see what it's like to run this tank simulator, you can do it now. And it's I think it's the last one out there. And it doesn't have a 3D virtual world. There's a physical tabletop environment, and there's a camera that just scoots all over this environment, and you sit inside this box, which I guess it's powered by hydraulics. If you go over a little tiny log on this table, the whole box is going to move you around. So it's really awesome. You got to go check out the tank simulator.
It is very cool. I just love how it's the merging of physical and digital. So the Pi is obviously the interface between the two, but the whole world you're navigating is just something like, a model train set, but on a massive scale for tanks. It's awesome.
A picture of it. It kind of touches on what Doctor was talking about earlier, bringing old hardware back to life and breathing life into those things. Because the hardest thing about it, I believe he said, was just trying to find, what do you want to call it? Just any of the computer components that you would need, because you can't just go around finding 1970s components like it's nothing. Being able to use a Pi to fill in those gaps and bring that hardware back is just really impressive.
1990s, do.
Oh, I've got a few of those.
Yeah, VFDs from a cash register, and I got it about a week ago. They're awesome. You just dump a load of text to it in serial, and it just squirts it right across the screen. 40 characters, done. Yeah, I'm going to think about protocols or anything. Just send it, done and dusted. It's great fun. So I'll do my bit now. So if you want to start hacking around with old stuff, like hacking toys like David did, or if you want to start hacking around with Raspberry Pi stuff, you're going to need a soldering iron. And this is where I talk about soldering irons for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to switch to my next screen. There we go. And I'll put myself in solo so you can just see me. So I've got a lot of soldering irons, and I'm not even joking. So you're going to see a quick slideshow on the screen, but I've also got this selection as well of smart soldering irons, one of which isn't very smart, but that's USB. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, and there's a 7th one in the corner of my desk. So I've been doing a load of soldering iron tests this last week to create a buyer's guide, so I can tell you all what the best ones are for your certain scenarios. And I'm going to go through all of them pretty quickly, because there are a few, and just talk about them quickly. So this is the Yahoo 938BD Plus I think it is. Awesome soldering station. It's about just over $100. So you get it. You're paying a bit of money for this, but it just works. So soldering iron, get nice and hot. Hot air reworkstation works. It doesn't move around the desk. Good piece of kit. I like that.
I like that it's a station and not just an iron. It's a whole unit. Oh, this one too.
Exactly. This is very similar. These two were close. So 938 and a 995D, very close. But the previous one pipped it just because of the interface. So that screen you see there is just like a very basic LED backlit screen. Sorry, LCD backlit screen. And it just felt a bit cumbersome to use, but it performed just as well as the previous one. So these are all soldering stations. These are serious ones. This is a Preciva, I think it's pronounced. This one is okay, but you'll see the soldering iron stand on the right. You're going to be chasing that around your desks. It's got no rubber feet on it whatsoever. It's all right.
That could be critical when you're dealing with hot stuff, though.
Yeah, usually, yeah. You don't want hot stuff to fly around your desk. Trust me, I've burnt myself a few times. Hakko, Rolls Royce of soldering irons. These are the ones, if you have money, you buy these ones. And this is a really good iron. It may look a bit Fisher Price. I was thinking Hot Wheels.
It needs some hot rod flames.
You could probably get some stickers on eBay to do that. Might do that, in fact. Lovely to use. Again, just works. Set a temperature, so 350 is my working temperature. Set it, go, solder. Brilliant. If you need to set some presets up, you can. There's only 2 buttons on the user interface, so you're going to do a little bit of messing around to get there, but it does work, and you just set your presets and away you go. This one's soldering guns. Now, I've not really done much for soldering guns, and if this was my first soldering gun I ever encountered, I probably wouldn't again, because it's not very good. I'm sorry to new Acolox. Just it dumps a load of heat in one go, which is what it's there for. I think it's about 100 watts it does in one go. And it feeds solder via that tube at the bottom, which feeds it to the tip. My gripe is, can you see the panel just above the black sticker?
Right.
If you take that panel off, there is mains power exposed.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's not good.
Oh.
It did dump a load of heat down. It did work. And if you were careful to use it, it worked. But it's a blunt instrument, this thing. It just dumps heat, gets the job done, and it doesn't feel too good. This one, Tabiga, I think it's pronounced, or Tabiga, something like that. This is a $17 soldering iron kit. Now, normally with kits like this, it's cheap and cheerful. You pay $17, you get, this desolder pump, you get some lead-free solder, the stand, the sponge, blah, blah, blah. And you should get those as like a bit of added value to try and sell a cheaper iron. But I'm happy to say this one, the $17, brilliant. Temperature controlled with a little dial. It's a bit imprecise, but just if you want to solder at 350, just take it to 400 degrees Celsius, and it sort of balances itself out. But it works really well. If I was in a pinch and need a soldering iron, I'd get one of those. TS80P, one of the ones I was holding up before. Really nice iron, but the included tip, which I've got here in my hand, is very fine. So it's very precise. And I'd prefer something like a chisel tip or something with like a conical circumference to it. Just gets more heat down easier, and it just feels easier to use. This is far too precise for its good, unfortunately. But a really good iron. TS100, another smart iron. Really good. This is mine. I've had it for about 2-3 years now. Does this feel like holiday slides? I start saying, here I am in the Algarve. Yeah. This is Doreen. Yeah. This is a Weller soldering gun. Now this is a complete opposite of that one from previously. Wow. Press the trigger, 140 watts instantly of heat. It just dumps heat so fast. In fact, when I first pressed the button, it scared me how much power it could dump out in one go. Press it again, it goes down to 100 watts, which is still an immense amount of power. Different tips to it as well, so you can change the tips if you want to flood more solder in a larger area, that sort of thing. Another Weller soldering station. This one was okay. Again, it's not digital, so you've got to set the dial to get your temperature. And you can't really judge the temperature that well. You just know that at the top it's 400 degrees C. So in the middle it could be 200, but I'm not quite sure. Again, for me, the soldering station, it's the way you put the iron into the stand. Can you see that it's pointing skywards? That's a bit... I'm not too keen on that. But good iron. It did put a lot of heat down. A bit imprecise, but yeah, did the job. And this is the last one of my holiday slides. This is from Turkey. I'm joking. This is an Antex XS25. This is actually my first soldering iron I ever bought. And this is on the list because it has no bells or whistles. It isn't smart. It isn't temperature controlled. All it is, you turn it on, you get 25 watts of power. It's firmly balanced. You can change the tips quite easily, obviously, when it's turned off. It just works. Easy peasy. Great iron. So that's for beginners. So why am I going through all that and taking it a very convoluted way? It's because I've got another soldering iron to review. A TS101. There's the box. There's the iron. It looks very much like a TS100, but they've just changed the overall shape of it. And at the back, we've now got USB-C and DC 5525.
Ooh.
So let me just get TS100. That's micro USB, which can't power it. That only gives it like data connectivity. There we go. It has got DC 5525. This will do USB-C and DC for power. So I'm going to give this a thorough testing to see if it will beat the $25 Pinecil version 2, which I really like.
Very cool.
And here endeth me talking about soldering irons. I bet there's a lot of people now asleep.
No, that was really cool.
I've actually got the earlier version of the first Yahuwah. I think that's how you say it, the one that you sold, and I would highly recommend that anybody who's doing this regularly get yourself a soldering station. They are, if you have a place to put it and a bench to put it on, you'll never go back.
Yeah, totally agree. I started with the XS25 Yandex, and that did me proud for a while. Then I went to, what was my next one? It was a Hakko clone from eBay. I think it was a Yahuwah, but I think even that was a clone of a Yahuwah. Because I know I had to fix it, because I had to watch a Big Clive video to work out that there was an isolation problem with the mains. So I had to take it apart and solder. So I had to get a soldering iron to fix my soldering iron. Whatever. Managed to fix it. It was working great. It's still in the makerspace, actually. But now I'm using smart soldering iron. So Pine-Sol version 2, Pine-Sol 1, TS100s. My word, there's so many here. And even these USB ones at like $5 on eBay.
Do you find yourself using any of the smart features on a regular basis, or is it a little bit of a gimmick?
For the Pine-Sols, I'll use it for temperature control. So I've got a custom profile on, not my Pine-Sol, sorry, my TS100. A custom profile for it. So I know I can press a button and it goes to my set temperature and holds there. But when I press another button, it'll take it up to a boost. So if I'm doing something that's got a beefy joint, I'll just press the button and it'll take it up so I can get that joint done. Then press it again, back down to normal working temp.
Good.
There you go. That shows how nerdy I am about soldering irons.
You're in the right place for it, Les.
I am indeed. Well, we have come to the end of the show. In fact, we're slightly over this week, but that's always good. It's been a good show. I'd like to thank David, Dr. David Pride, being on the show. Thank you very much, sir. I'll talk to you about that bunion later on.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back on next week at the normal time, so that's 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT, as we're now in wintertime in the UK. So we shall see you all next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks very much, folks. Take care.